Welcome to the Electric Theatre.
Hey Dev, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for being on my little show today. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, it's really such a pleasure. I'm honored.
Well, thank you. I wanted to. Usually, I just try to jump right in. I say this a lot, and everybody's probably sick of it, but I try not to. Do too much. School training. Like I like more like
Right.
I like forensic files. I like looking for the little details and then also the things that may find me. And that's when music and art is my favorite, is when I stumble on it or it falls on my head, which what you do has fallen on my head. So it brought all these like little questions to my mind while I was checking out a few performances. Some very strong, very strong stuff all around, musically, lyrically, poetically, artistically.
Wow. Thank you. That's thanks so much. That's a crazy honor. That's wild.
Well, it's I think all of us, we all, I think the fans younger, when they're looking for their social scene, sometimes think that maybe we're dedicated to one thing when they certainly don't pay attention to they themselves have been brought up to several things, but are looking for one thing at the moment. So it's obvious that we all love different things. But what I wanted to really jump into after like being moved by what I was watching this particular performance. Again, I didn't read where it was or the purpose or stuff. I just wanted to watch the performance and the humans and feel the language. And at one point, a woman had, it seemed like it was in a radio station or something like that. You were set up in an office area. And at one point, a woman had come in and really just laid down some beautiful poetry about, At one point, she said, I don't know the exact words, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ruin them, but basically they were, I'm not growing up to be you, I'm growing up to be me. And I thought that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I feel like that's all of us, especially right now. But what I wanted to jump into was, before we get into like certain things, was as a child, how much reward did you receive by the people that were obviously family, could be friends, could just be someone you saw down the street frequently because of getting groceries? But how much reward did you receive as a human in order to have all that feeling, being able to play so many different instruments, and then the way that you do? And I have a lot of friends who are really good at jazz, and they'll blow my mind where they can go in the human side.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's just what you do, but like with all the stuff that you can do and incorporate flawlessly on the moment, right here with the feeling. Well, did you have a lot of reward growing up?
Well, first of all, thank you again, because really it's so nice and so amazing that hit you. Her name is the woman's name is Ashley Hayes. She's a phenomenal poet. But yeah, when I was younger, it was like, it's interesting. Like I don't know. It's weird. Music was such a secret thing. Like it was so, you know, it was such a safe space for me, which basically just existed in my head or in my bedroom, and it was never really. It wasn't really till I was older that it essentially would be shared, or I would share space with people within music. But you know, it was because you know I was like heavily bullied and stuff, and I played sport as a means of. I mean, I love sports, but as my means of like connection, I guess. But I really just like as soon as like the school was over, skating home, and then when I got home, I was just so engulfed in so many different types of music, and it was such a way of escapism. It was travel, you know. It was all those things, and it was like words and imagery, and like every part of something connected to music. I mean, I always say it now with everything I do, even if it's me, I don't know, directing videos or doing artwork or whatever, it always comes back to the music. And I think that's just from when I was younger and just being such a mega fan of so much stuff, you know, like posters on the wall and you know, press and record on the VHS when a video played. Like every aspect of it was such a big saving grace to me, and so I kind of never really let that go. That feeling, I still hold on to that so strongly. I protect it at all costs.
I think that's interesting because a lot of people that I talk to lately, we have this similar feeling like, you know, I'm 51 years old, and I feel like for some reason, as intense as the world is getting digitally and online, and, you know, people at the moment, you know, I wouldn't say completely avoiding each other, but, you know, there's these things that we're doing. But I feel just as you do, where I'm very protective of how I got here, where I'm at, and why I'm protective is because of the emotional bases that are the concrete, I guess, pillars of my upbringing. You know, music is the one thing that was always there for me, no matter what. Yeah. I'm an only child, so, you know, like, argument with the family, you know, I have music, or I don't even need to play it. It can be in my head, or I spend most of the time with music in the car, you know, so I'm very protective of it, like you were saying, and I hold it sacred to this day. But I feel like even as much as we're moving so fast right now, I feel like there's there may be this sense of recognizing that bigger, quicker, faster, you know, all these things aren't necessarily great for music. Meaning the programs that, you know, learn to play guitar in 2 hours, or just all these things that help people that do love music. There's nothing taking away from anybody who would want to create, you know, music, but watching someone like yourself being able to, you know, go from a looper, which is one philosophy, certainly could be a genre that uses sort of that technology, but then, you know, pick up a Strat, loop it, get on the keys, sing, have all those things so fluid in you. It just felt like there might have been some heavy-duty people in your life that were giving you reward right at the moment that you needed it to be able to keep it so close to you. Like, my mom encouraged me. She was the one that would notice that I would look at album covers because I love art. And even since I was a little baby, my mom would tell me I was just obsessed with sort of pictures and stuff. So she was the one that would say, hey, are you interested in this? And I'd say yes. So like I feel she was a good parent because she would look at it, you know, kind of size it up, see what it was, read it, make sure it's appropriate. And more times than none, most people would probably think what she was allowing me to look at may have not been appropriate for that decade. You know, I grew up in the 70s, and, you know, I wanted some aggressive stuff instead of maybe what was happening. And my mom allowed me to have that. So I felt like that was the reward, that my own mother could recognize that maybe I didn't want to be fed certain things in this world, that I want to be fed the things that I'm looking for. And it's a beautiful thing when she could notice it and allow it. So that's a little bit more on the reward. That was, you know, I was wondering if you had a brother, sister, mom, dad, uncle, you know, someone that saw you gravitating to this and said those right things at the right times in order for you to continue your path. It's so important.
Yeah, it really is. That's a beautiful story, because I think that really is important. You know, I started playing cello when I was like really young. There's two things I can think about that when you pinpoint it like that. I started playing cello, and you know we couldn't afford a cello, and but my mum kind of pushed forward, and there was like a program where we could rent one for like the school year, and then when the school year is done, you can like give it back. And so that was something that was huge for me. My mom doing that, and really, you know, and noticing, you know, it's funny because like now I'm older, I can look back and see these things and understand them better. But you know, the fact that she noticed that was something that was very important to me. But funny enough, and it's funny I'm talking to you about this, there's a second moment that really stands out, and even actually during this quarantine earlier in the year, I was writing a lot of things down, just as you know, like music wasn't really coming freely, so I was just turning to just writing words, which is something I used to do. And I was writing this moment down where, you know, like me and my dad, we have a much better relationship now. We never had a bad one, but you know, it's he immigrated from Africa to England, and I think there's a lot of cultural things in regards to parental-child relationships where, you know, like I always say to my partner too, like I feel like with immigrant parents, it's really like parent-child, and like you're not really friends. You know, that relationship doesn't really happen. But one moment I recall when I was younger, and I never felt like my dad saw or noticed things I was doing, but it didn't really bother me. But I remember this one day, I'm trying to remember how old I was, but early teens, I guess, and he came home and knocked on my door, and he had a copy of your second album, Iowa.
Okay.
Which he had got from someone he worked with, and he gave it to me. And this is, I can't even, like, to this day, that moment is so big for me because I really didn't think he knew anything I listened to, knew, you know, like what I was interested in, let alone on a level of going out of his way to get it. And
that album of all albums at that time of life, And I guess what I could say, that album represents a lot to us. Not to interrupt, but go ahead. But, to bring that album to you, Iowa,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really big. I mean, and, you have to also, thinking about all this context as well, like a black family in Essex, in, like the east of London, and he's noticed what I was interested in the moment. And I've never forgot that moment. It's like, because it's those things, like you said, that kind of validate you to be you. And that was huge for me.
Well, those things, I think we forget, we get caught up. I was very lucky. My dad, he was very eccentric and probably one of the weirdest people I've ever met, but also one of the smartest, probably the smartest man. But he always used to tell me, he'd be like, well, I don't understand everything that you're into or why you'd be into what you're into, but if you're going to get into rock and roll or music one way or another, then you got to know who the greats are. And unfortunately, I can't show you a lot of the greats, but I can show you some of them. So his way of contributing for me was, he'd be like, Johnny Cash is playing the Civic Center. I'm taking you and your mom. Chris Christopherson, B.B. King, Ray Charles. I got to see Ray Charles and just about cried and danced the whole time. And I was just a little kid in the music, and being a little kid, going with your parents into a Civic Center, and the first thing you do is smell what's in the air. And you see that everybody's a lot looser and everybody's there on one agenda, and that's just to have a good time or forget, So I was really lucky that my dad didn't put down what I liked, but was like, if you're going to like what you like, then you better know who invented it. So I was able to, very fortunate to catch some of, some really big acts before some of these people passed away, which was great.
Wow.
So that's why I bring up the reward, because I like to remind people that there are, we all try not to bring up bad times, but try to, not necessarily you or just anybody, but it's always nice to just try and bring up, a reward that really has something to do with your day, why you can shovel a driveway with snow, who is that person that gave you that insight to do it correctly, because you can do it incorrect. You can certainly do it incorrectly. That question I wanted to lead into because of the reward, but being what you are, and me seeing that you can do a lot of different things, so you have that natural vibration in you that just it's a natural thing. I always believe when I see such wonderful artists that can do so many wonderful things, it's just like your blood, right? But with what you do and kind of like your style, and I'm not gonna say what I think it is or anything like that, but a lot of people will bring up the word pop. What little bit I read, I might have heard that word 14 times. But then I dig into more of who I think the human is in the moment of what I'm watching, what's happening, what is this? And, certainly melody always lends to a pop philosophy potentially, but pop is a very pronounced thing. And I wanted to ask you what you basically, let me define a little bit more so I think I can make it. Basically, they were saying that, pop's pop, this, pop, that, everything pop culture. and then they were like, sort of like the way you decide to do things ends up, that's pop now. And when I hear people say that, I feel like they could be the problems of why music can't stick with an identity, because maybe it's based more around a monetary aspect. So I wanted to ask you what you felt about the word pop. Does it apply to you? Are you, I know that you've worked with a lot of wonderful artists, big pop artists, written lots of songs, probably not the songs that people, see generally right boom in your face. But how do you deal with the word pop? Do you love it? Do you dislike it? Do you spend no time? What do you think?
It's a bit of both. Like, I tend to not think about it in regards to me, mainly because, okay, so I guess what I'm saying is that I think in my mind, there's two definitions. Like, my idea, there's what I conceive as pop, and then I guess there's what the public conceives as pop. And I guess, like what you said, the public sees pop as in regards to, like monetary and like getting on Billboard or Spotify and all those kinds of things. Like, I think a lot of people view it like that. But I don't. I have a different relationship to it in my mind. And I'm trying to think how I can simplify it. I guess in my mind, honestly, I think in my mind it's as simple as being able to sing along to something. Whether it's one melody in like a 20-minute massive noise, or it's a keyboard line on on an instrumental track. Like, I think when I use the term pop, I'm thinking of just like a good melody, regardless of if it's like, regardless of if it's like Debussy or fucking like, I don't know, like I can't even think, Turnstile or something. Like, like in my mind, that's how I view it. And I guess I just think about whatever I've always had this thing that wherever anyone wants to throw kind of onto me, they can just throw it onto me, because I just don't really pay attention, because mainly because I'm quite a sensitive person, honestly, but I just don't pay attention really, because I'm still just working through ideas and checklists in my head artistically. I'm still just doing things. I actually said to someone recently that I think the music I listen to now is a chain reaction that still hasn't been broken from when I was 13. Like, it's really rare that I listen to music because it's been released. Like, if that makes sense. Like, I don't really listen to new music just because it's now, it now exists. Like, I've been, I've been following this chain of just like discovering.
Yeah, that's what I do, man. I remember, I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, so back when I was growing up, the outlets to buy music were either in shopping centers, and they were corporate chains, or there were mom and pop shops, a lot of them actually, spread around town. And, if you spent money, you could take the albums out of their cases and preview them very much. But I've always let music find me. Because I can't. one thing that bugs me more than anything, and I'm not one of those guys that wants to bash on big companies, because at one time they were just people like us with big dreams and big ideas, and they fell into place, and, you know, here comes the flood. What do you do about it, you know?
Yeah.
But I can't stand going on a format that wants me to discover new music that it's pounding out just because it's been released.
Yeah,
so
it's my least favorite thing.
Right. I'm like, well, number one, the way I work is that I look at the color first. You know, they're displaying all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, there's an awful lot of yellow on this screen, or or the trend is pink right now. That's weird. I was just working on something pink, so I'm not going to work on it anymore because it's already made it to this format. So, and then I always get confused. Is it the name of the band on the top or the song on the top? But then, because there's so many bands that are coming out, I don't know any of them, so I don't know if it's the song or the band. So I got to look for someone that I know and go, oh, okay, Autoflux, okay, cool. Here they are, that they're on the bottom, so that means the song's on the top. Okay. And then I'm looking at all the artwork, and I'm like, well, I don't see one thing here, in my opinion. This is strictly my opinion. And you got to remember, I'm not going through hundreds of pages. I'm not pushing the word see it all. You know, see everything that's out this week. I'm not doing that, so I can't say that this doesn't exist. But usually the majority of what's, you know, being thrown down my throat, you know, in my psychosis of my brain, nothing looks like it's making a difference. Not in temperature, not in vibration, not the way it's displayed, so linear, so flat. I don't want to listen to any of it. So I don't like being told that something's out. I remember when I used to wait in line, I think Tool, Anima was the last time that I made sure I was up at 8 in the morning, and at Best Buy, that was the place that was going to carry the majority of the shipment. Mom and pop stores were few and far and just weren't working at that time. And I remember going to Best Buy, and that was the last time that, you know, I stood in a line hoping to get my copy of something that I needed to so badly listen to. I wanted to know where their brains were, because maybe where their brains were could be somewhere where the world was, because they've been out in the world and they could explain. Or maybe they're giving me fantasy, or, you know, fantasy in the sense of making things up. But since that day, you know, the world moved into a much quicker way of moving music, so I haven't had to wait in line. I've never been told I can't have a piece of music, and that changed not my love for music, but the necessity. So I'm not to keep going on this, but it's like you said, I'm sort of running off of this continuous mixtape, if you will, created from when I was 8, you know, from the Beatles Come Together, my mom playing me that song, to, you know, moving through high school to now, and I have my best collection. And I do find stuff, because the artists I love, they'll turn me on to someone, and it won't be because that artist is like them. It's just something that helps them. So I like that. I'm like, well, let me see what David Gilmour liked to listen to. Maybe they'll show me where some of his licks were inspired. So I didn't know, with all your talent and the company that you may or may not keep, meaning, you know, you obviously are proactive in performing and creating art, so you have to have peers and people like that are helping you. And it seems like the way you're able to present yourself, you got a really good handle of maybe taking your time. Maybe you don't want to. That's why I was wondering about the pop thing. I mean, in the end, are you trying to, are you going to be a SEAL one day? You know what I mean? Are you going to go? Are you going to go? You know what I'm saying? I mean, hey, I like SEAL, man. I like SEAL.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being honest. My old manager, he's passed away. He and I used to bump SEAL all the time in his Range Rover while I was running around trying to make Slipknot work in different ways. But why I say that is you have that potential, obviously, if you want to be focused in an idea you want to take. But, I mean, does that pop world, does that far out pop world fascinate you, interest you? Are you headed there? Is that your goal?
Not really, but like, if it is, it's in this like weird, like almost like, I mean, it's going to sound very cynical, but the point that interests me is more in like a Wikipedia sense, and I guess what I mean by that is, like I don't know if you do this, but an artist, you're like reading up like their history and what they've done, and then you see like there's this album in like 1984. You're like, I never knew that album, and then you like check it out, and it's like some full-blown like pop thing that they just did for like 1 year. Right. I've always been a fan of that like isolated, like that outline, like Neil Young Trends or something, like when you just find the album that is just kind of like, oh, weird, they did that. So I'm interested in it on that level, but honestly, and this is maybe like part of why I like to collaborate so much, is that I've come to terms with the fact that maybe my skill set and my taste don't quite line up. Like they don't align with what is popular en masse. But in working with other artists who are from that world and they have their skill set, which is different to mine, and they have their taste, which is different to mine, the cross-section and the meeting of those minds, I feel like it's so interesting and can create such like, I don't know, can just create something that you by yourself could never ever do, and them by themselves could never ever do. So I'll say that, like I'm always intrigued working with people who are from that pop world, and then I've made my I've made like a 3-minute intro, and they're like, well, maybe we should take that back a bit. It's interesting to me because my brain doesn't think that way. So I'm just so, I mean, it sounds so like, I don't know, like cheesy or something, but I'm so musically curious. I just want to explore all of it, like everything. I
love that, though. I mean, I spent a lot of time. I mean, that's the best way. I think that's what the vibration of music really is. It's kind of like I'm a nature person, and I find it fascinating that you could be in the Rocky Mountains taking a hike, sun's out, possible eagle could fly by, or a hawk, or you could see a black bear over here or something. But then when the night comes in, everything disappears and turns into this whole other thing that starts speaking in your brain differently. That curiosity. So I'm the same way. I'm very curious about music in all aspects, what it's doing outside, what the rhythm of the street is. A long time ago, I used to, people used to say they'd put down those cameras on like the corner of Japan and Tokyo, and they would show you, there's like 6 corners. They're able to comprehend like 8 corners, right? Like they can go diagonal, they can do it all. But you see it, and they tell you like within an hour, 1 million people have walked it. It's astronomical, right? Whatever it is. I know it's a big number, but I feel one time in my career when I was in there, I found it interesting that every hour, it was like every 2 hours, I come down from my hotel room with like a recorder, and I would record the tempo of the rush of the people. And obviously some of like the quick, scenarios, if you will, hypothesis done in a couple days, obviously early morning rush hour. I try to avoid the obvious stuff, 5 o'clock. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people moving quick. But I try to get these obscure things. But what that would do for me, then I'd put them in a tempo. And what that would help me do was that sometimes I find myself in front of a machine and I'm looking at numbers and knobs that move up and down and straight and left and right, and your brain starts thinking, does this need to be a little bit more up because it moves up, or should this be on 6 and not 5 because the other 10? And it's just so moronic because it's like, what am I doing? I'm not making music, I'm not, I'm like playing this game, this video game. But what I'm getting at is my curiosity goes as far as trying to figure out the tempo of people in Tokyo at 3:23 a.m. in the morning coming back from a Hardee's to the hotel. And not only do I get the samples, but I can prorate some sort of a, tempo. And then it's some tempo I'm not used to. That's what I was trying to get at, is that, I could open Pro Tools and just stick at 120 beats per minute and start going and not study tempo. But if I would study it with my curiosity, I'd be like, 65? Like, what? What the hell can I do in 65? So then I'd double it. I'd be like, okay, that's easier, but that's not what I came to do. I can't, so now I'm dragging at 65, but it's so fascinating because my curiosity brought me to another curiosity that ends up creating something that would have never, ever, even remotely been looked after unless the curiosity was there. So I understand that. I'm not a big fan of Wikipedia. I've done okay, wait, let me rephrase that. I am a fan of Wikipedia. I have no problems with Wikipedia. My problems, I believe, are the same problems anybody would have, and that is just that if there is some misinformation that's been stated, that can be case sensitive for the human being. Because we all know everybody's reading it and everybody's downloading it and thinking it, but it's not the truth. It's not necessarily was put on there as a lie to hurt, but it might just be something someone thought to be true, and we both know that can hurt, the human. That aspect, I wish there was a little more regulation on it, but I guess for what it is, and I guess that's how you get that obscure album that you did know, is that some guy who was listening to that band stumbles across Wikipedia and tells all the young kids, like, you guys are all talking about today, check this album out that came out 30 years ago, punks. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I do like that. I think that's much, I stopped watching television. I can't really listen to the radio. The internet makes me so angry, especially if I if I say somebody's, yesterday, like 2 days ago, I said the most obscure name, just some actor, I can't even remember right now, and it showed up on my feed, and I was like, this is stupid. I'm like,
God.
I'm like, this
I
is
hate
the
that
dumbest.
so much.
Yeah, I'm like, this is the dumbest fucking thing ever created. Because I'll tell you what, people, try to get me to go to Target any faster, I'll never go again. I'll never go again. Tell me there's a sale and that it's only 1.3 miles and it's open at 8 and here's the what. I'm never going again. Because there's nothing there for me. It's all right here.
Yeah.
So curiosity is good, and everybody that's listening to this needs to continue that curiosity because, I mean, look at us now. We're being told to stay in, and if you don't have curiosity, you're not getting anything done. You're just staring at the TV, getting angrier and angrier. You don't know if the information's true or not. And then you don't want to get caught up in some bullshit outside over what's being not told correctly, potentially. So curiosity can kill the cat, keep you occupied, keep you going, and pull out potential that normally might not make the light of day. So that's cool.
For sure, 100%.
What are you doing? What are you... Personally, man, I don't really get into the pandemic and talking about it too much because it horrifies me because, I mean, just 2 days ago, I had to, somebody around me will be watching the internet or something, and they're the ones that are educating me and keeping me educated, but I get so fucking mad. And this poor lady was stealing some formula, just one can of formula for her baby, and didn't have the money, and they were going to arrest her and stuff, and one of the employees ended up buying it for her, and just I'm thinking, my God.
I saw that. I read that.
So I mean, it just we're in a very awkward place, awkward as hell, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. So I normally don't talk about it much, because there are so many people suffering in ways that I don't know and that I can't represent because maybe I don't know and I can't educate. So I just try to, I try to be proactive by having these conversations with just two people that, are elsewhere doing other things, having a conversation. But that conversation would lead to, in these days, with what we're having to do and mandate and all this, what are you doing currently? Are you heavy into a quadruple album? You working with anybody interesting? You have creative block? You watching more cartoons? What are you doing?
I'm actually, it's an interesting place. I'm kind of, in regards to like my own music, I mean, I'm every now and then I'm kind of fiddling around and making something, but I don't know. Honestly, it's like I don't think it's really there, but I'm not beating myself up over it. I do a lot of scoring, like film scoring stuff, and I've been doing a lot more lately. So I'm so busy with that. So I'm kind of lucky in a way that I have that as a thing, as a part of my career. But it's interesting because it's like in doing that, I'm working on music every day. But it's such a different it's such a different part of your brain. It's not so it doesn't. It is creative, but it doesn't feel. I'm not doing like my own thing. I do want to scratch that itch soon, but yeah, as I said, I'm not beating myself up over it because it's a fucking global pandemic. So, I think a little bit of I think it's okay to feel a little like, I don't know, dejected and like not fully, I guess, inspired is the word.
I agree completely with you. This might come off the wrong way to most people. I don't believe there's, to where there's negative, there's obviously going to be positive. So I believe this is a positive. I believe what you just said is an important thing, that hopefully most people are getting now, but I do believe when it's all said and done, and we get back on with it and we find our way, they're going to look back and they're going to say to themselves, wow, we all went through this. You know, some worse than others, obviously. That's tragedy. I hate it. I can't stand it, thinking about that. And, of course, some are going to stand up and say, no, you didn't go through it like me. And we would all have to say, you're right. But I can remember, you know, I stay home in between Slipknot tours. I love having a couple years off in between cycles because I put so much of myself into the art, into the words that are Corey's words, but I mean, he always throws them at me and says, this is what you're signing up for. So I read it. You know, I mean, when you said your dad brought you the Iowa album, I thought, do we need to start talking about your dad? Because I mean, that's a serious album, man. I mean, I don't want to say it because I'm the clown, but anytime anybody says that album name, one line comes to my head, always. You say Iowa, I go to Disaster Piece, and one line comes to my head because interviewers and people and news people and churches and kids and parents and mayors, they were on me about that line, and I didn't even write it, but I signed up for it. I was given that on a piece of paper. It was shoved to me like secret society. He said, this will be destroyed after you read it. You should know what you're signing up for. And I said to him, hey, I don't need to read it, but I love to read it. I'm already in, okay?
Yeah.
In case you don't know. And I read it, and I was like, okay. Now, this is 2001, so some of these things that Corey's expressing were very serious at that point. But I got used to being home in between tours. So Stone Sour would go on tour. So Corey would fit, you know, he would make sure I'm not speaking for him, so I don't want to speak for him, but I've always felt like he has so much love for so many other voices that he can sing that obviously, you know, if some of them were sung in Slipknot, we'd be like, that's awesome, but it just probably doesn't fit in what we're doing. So it's awesome that he gets to go out and fulfill those other dreams of his. So I'm used to staying home. Well, when this all started, I have so many people around me that have never had to stay home.
Yeah.
So it became very interesting for me to watch those people.
People were losing it. People were losing
it. Losing it, man. They're like, how you doing, clown? I'm like, well, I started a garden, and right now I'm dealing with carpenter ants, and I got about 5 trees that got to be cut down to fire logs. Nobody comes in or out. I don't know anything that's going on. I let my wife tell me what's up. But then, you know, I'm not trying to bust anybody out, but, you know, managers, they work extremely hard. Yeah. Most of their day could consist of just staying in line with what today's business is. What just happened at something like Live Nation that we all need to know if, you know, that's our touring avenue. So, you know, there's keeping up with that information. Well, when you're told to stay home, and, you know, Live Nation's at home, booking agents are at home, managers are at home, bands are at home, fans are at home, you know, McDonald's is at home. Yeah. You know, it's crazy. And people were flipping out because they're like, I've never, ever been told to just not do something. And that gave me a lot of pleasure, not in the sense of how this is all coming about, but in the sense that honestly, I could tell you about 10 friends who achieved so much for themselves because they recognized early that they had never had time. And instead of the cliche, like, you know, you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to spend a lot of time with my kids, and then they just don't. The ones that do, man, so fortunate and blessed that that's what you can do. Others say, oh, I'm going to learn to cook or do this. And, you know, but I know a lot of people that wouldn't have done a lot of things. I'm not talking about hanging paintings that need to be hung for 4 years. I'm talking about literally picking up things that in their lifetime they wanted to try. And that's a positive. That's a positive out of this negative. And I think we're all going to get out of it recognizing that all of us, you know, in one way or another had to share in this isolation. And I think a lot of creativity, you know, I'm hoping I don't have to watch videos for the rest of my life with people with masks on. I'm hoping, I'm all for masks. You know, I think people generally are sort of filthy anyway. And it's like, why not? You know, just don't breathe on it. But I'm just hoping like every corporate thing isn't going to try to like, you know, like they bring back Who's the Boss, and there's everybody in a mask, and I'm like, oh God. I mean, we got to find a way of getting around the art. So I'm excited to see the pent upness. So I was curious how much pent upness you have. Are you able to get out where you're at?
Yeah. I'm lucky. I'm in. Well, I was in LA for a large chunk of it. I'm back in New York now, where I live. So I go for walks with my dog, which is good. Honestly, if the dog wasn't here, I'm not sure if I'd go outside. But no, I'm able to get out. And it's, you know, New York is pretty. They kind of have it pretty much on lock, you know. So I'm pretty lucky to be in New York. Are you in Des Moines?
Yeah, I'm in Des Moines. I'm in the most northern suburb. It's called Johnston, sort of by this big federal lake. You know, I'm a lake guy, so I'm very lucky. I have to be honest. You know, I haven't seen a single incident. But I'm also the guy that's not going to go out on Black Friday and try to get that deal. Okay,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm not buying into any of this bullshit. So when they're like, "Uh-oh, toilet paper," I'm like, "Well, it's a good thing we own bidets because I'm not going to go get in a fight for no reason over toilet paper." So I'm lucky that we really haven't felt it. And where I feel like we're really lucky is that I have been to places that say, hey, it's store policy, wear a mask. And I've been in there, and there's been people with no masks, and I have seen people discuss, but I haven't seen anybody drug out or screaming or some stupid phone up in your face because you're not doing anything. You know, like, so we're very lucky in that sense that we can walk. There's restaurants that are open. It's a little depressing because, you know, you got to stay away and it doesn't feel very social. But I feel very blessed to be where I'm from and know the terrain, and we have family around, my kids are around, and really, because all my tours have been canceled, I've just been working on music and art mainly. Cool. Like, I'm just going crazy on art, and we got a lot of stuff going. Yeah, well, thank you. We got a lot of stuff going right now because, you know, we're just not the type of artists that are going to go, well, I'll just take however long this is going to be and then start up when they tell me. I went right at it right in the beginning, and I scratched that itch as you said it, you know. So I was wondering if you were putting together this major plethora of stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on stuff. It's just, but there's no, I mean, there never is a plan, actually, so I don't know why that's any different now.
I recently was very lucky and have been very fortunate to do a couple scores. It's interesting because most of all, who I consider my mentors and my peers that I hang with, like all of them, no matter what, like producers, engineers, they all pull me aside and always say I should score. They're like, you need to score, you need to score, you need to score. I'm like, well, I'm in Slipknot. You know, like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? But fortunately, once in a while, I get to do some things, and it's such a wonderful, wonderful world. So you brought it up. What kind of stuff do you score? Is it genre specific? Are you all over the place? Can you share something that you've worked on or something that you're working on with us? So, you know, it's like Wikipedia right now. I'm going to go check out something that you scored so I can get a feel for your scoring.
Well, yeah, it's kind of all over, really. I mean, I did this a TV show recently that came out called We Are Who We Are. It was like this HBO show about kids. And then I'm working on the score for another HBO show called In Treatment, which used to be out back in the day, and they're bringing it back. Then I just scored a film that Sundance this year called Passing, which is Rebecca Hall's directorial debut. It has Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga in it. And then I'm working on a 3-part documentary on Naomi Osaka, directed by Garret Bradley, who just did that documentary Time, which I don't know if you've seen, but it's an absolutely next-level documentary. It is unreal.
What's it called? Prime?
Time.
Crime.
Time. Oh, Time. Time.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hey, as all artists, I have tinnitus in my ears. I can hear about it. You know what I mean?
No,
okay, so
I'm just saying.
I think I've seen that, and I think I've stayed away from it because those sort of things, if it starts breaking down, you know, the past, the present, the future, and I've been here and I'm not here and I'm never going to be here, I'm probably not going to wake up tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
I know that feeling.
I'm going to check it out though. My wife and I, we watch. I love documentaries, but they do have to be next level. I'll tell you about one after you keep telling me. So continue. So you a 3-part series, and then this one, this documentary Time. What else?
God, I feel like there's other things once again. And then I have a couple like more classical based on what the word is called, commissions. Oh my God, I'm losing it. I have some like a couple more classical based commissions that I'm writing that I've been asked to do. So you know, it's like I said before, it's like a lot that's keeping me busy. But you know, it is all work initiated by someone else. You know, so it's,
okay.
But that's a different thing. But I'm happy for it.
But they recognize your ability and they want some, and obviously your energy transcends in what they're creating, and music and visual, you know, are so important together. I mean, obviously, you know, you watch the movie Castaway, and there's not a lot of dialogue. Once he's on the island, there's not a lot of dialogue for, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, and you're enthralled, you know? I mean, you're like, what the hell? But I know what you mean, though. It's brought on by someone else. It is work. Right now I'm doing, for what we're creating, what I can say is there's characters. So I'm working on characters. And what pisses me off is that I am held hostage. It feels like at gunpoint with the computer, because like my brain is moving to where it wants to go, and I have to wait for this thing to save. I have to wait for this thing to transform. I have to wait for this thing to apply. But I work in very big numbers, like 4 foot by 4 foot, 6 foot by 4 foot, because I try to do it at high res right away, and then scrunch those squares down to circles if I'm not working into film, So anyway, it is all work, man. I get up and I'm like, God, I so badly want to work, but it's all work. And it's hard sometimes just to turn the computer on, because I'm like, you're going to be the reason I'm not going to get it out today. This thing, and can be discouraging.
No, totally.
I watched.
That's cool, though. That's exciting.
I was going to tell you. Well, thank you. I was just going to tell you because you brought it up. Just because people that are listening, maybe they get 2 for 1. I watched this documentary. It was more of a crime series. It's called. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Murder on the Bayou. And basically what it is it is a documentary of the time and events and all the information gathered to this point to the best of its ability. And then it's got a lot of the people interviewed. There are some people that are passed away, but what makes it groundbreaking, I don't want to use the word groundbreaking, but next level, is that the way it's filmed, it's like it all of a sudden it becomes like a movie and not like a true crime thing that you're being asked. At the end of it, what I got out of it was that, hey, if you're willing to come down here and help us solve this and give these people's families some peace, that's why we made this. So it's very arty and shot. There's footage and dumb stuff, but when they're interviewing the real people and they're saying the real thing, the way they're shot and the lighting, it's like it felt like True Detective to me. I was like, my God. And for the first 3 days, I felt like all the information they gave me, I felt like I had a good understanding who it was. And I was like, is that what they're doing? Is that, they just want that one person to come forward and say that one thing that can put that 1 or 2 people away. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful if art, inspired someone that may have been involved and broke them down emotionally because of temperature and saturation and feelings and emotions, and actually gave that one bit of information that could bring justice to a lot of murdered women, So it's documentaries are very interesting when they can really do what that word is, what its definition is.
Yeah, I fully agree. I agree with that. Especially, documentary. It can be a tough road because a bad documentary is pretty painful to watch, I think. Yes.
I mean, 100%. I try to watch. I know in the first, I turn most documentaries off just by their effort in the rolling credits in the beginning. I'm like, okay, you guys spent every dollar you had on the movie, and at the last minute you spent 30 seconds on this, and I'm supposed to be into the rest of it. I'm going to fall out because I'm not even in right now, So, hey, another good one that'll blow you away is The Last Narc. And
I don't know that one.
That one, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's basically about a kidnapping of a DEA agent in the 70s. And anyway, there's real characters that are still alive today that are telling stories. And a lot of it sounds like salvation, redemption, peace, fear, regret. And they you're talking to real people that were there on both sides, and real human beings sharing real stuff that normally just isn't. Well, I normally don't see a lot of stuff like this, but it was educational on the sense of humanness, what humans can think about their lives 30 years later, becoming wise, you know, and the decisions we make. So, well, my friend, try to keep these around about this time. I don't want to take up your day. I'm sure you're busy. That dog probably needs a walk. What's your dog's name?
Coltrane.
Coltrane, cool. I like that. We got we ordered 2 dogs before the pandemic, and then we were going to get them. We didn't know it was all going to happen, so we're like, well, let's just get them. You know, let's get them. So we got my boy a blue nose pit bull, and I got a pit bull, and his name is Dale, and he is Dale. He's just a Dale. So I love that Coltrane. I can imagine what Coltrane's like. So.
Yeah, he really is. You know, we live in the village too. So he's really
oh, so yeah, He's in it to win it. Well, here's what I tell everybody. One way or another, our paths will meet and cross, because frequently I come to New York. You may just be there. I can always remind my management and say, hey, let's see if we can do another Electric Theater, but face to face, or hey, just see if he wants to go get a beer or a bite real quick, talk music. That's really what this is about, is just trying to bring it all together. And I meet so many wonderful people that I learn from, and the rest of the day I'll be thinking about what you said and what I could have learned from you and what I can apply to my life. So let's just make sure, as I get the Electric Theater on its feet and, get, I guess, dozens and dozens of people, is when I can start returning back and catching back up with people. And then you and I picking up on some of these things that you were doing that you can bring to us then. So just know that our paths are going to continue, my friend. So
that's great. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, pleasure's all mine as well. So you have a safe day. Try to get outside, get a little air, because it's good. And I haven't been to New York in a long time. I miss it. I miss those streets, and I miss the people, and I got a lot of good friends that live there. Hope everybody's safe there and taken care. You have a great day. Peace, and it was wonderful talking to you. And keep up the most inspirational personal insight. And if you have a moment and you see that young lady that was in that performance with you, who came in for one moment. If you see her, you can tell her from the Clown. I really was taken back. Again, I don't know if I'm saying it exactly like her, but she's like, I'm not growing up to be you. I'm not supposed to grow up to be you. I'm supposed to grow up to be me. Or I'm not growing up to be you. I'm growing up to be me. So, or I don't want to grow up to be you. I want to grow up to be me. And man, I struggle with that. I struggle with that every day. Like, I just want to be able to present me, the real me, and not be confused, and get on with the best work of my life and continue. So, give her a hug for me, because that one was a big one. So anyway, we'll talk soon, and have a great day, my friend.
You too. Take care, man.